All praises. Man, I'm gonna need one person, man. It could be anybody, even one of y'all. Who's a good writer? Anybody a good writer? I need somebody to write on that board, man. Just a few different notes. All right. We just gonna take notes. You gonna do it for me? Appreciate you. See, I love you. I love you. Appreciate you, sis. Not because you do your job, because you do it well. All right. You do it well, above and beyond. All right. You can just have a seat somewhere close. I'm gonna bring up a few different points. All right. I'm gonna use you momentarily. All right. So tonight's lesson is the law of circumcision. All right. The law of circumcision. The first book we're going to get Galatians. Get the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verse 1 through 6. Also, of course, remember, family, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, especially those viewing online, once again, to the channel. So we appreciate the love and the support. And got to remember to do that every class. Let's get Galatians chapter 5, verse 1 through 6. I'm still flipping.
5, verse 5 through 6, correct?
Nah, 1 through 6.
The book of Galatians 5, verse 1. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage.
So many read this, says, don't be tangled again with that yoke of bondage. Read.
Behold, I, Paul, say unto you.
We're dealing with Paul's writings again. Read.
Behold, I, Paul, say unto you, that if ye be circumcised, Christ shall profit you nothing.
Oh, be circumcised, Christ shall profit you nothing. You ain't got to be circumcised, and that where a lot of people get the understanding with this. Read.
For I testify again to every man that is circumcised, that he is a debtor to the whole law. Christ is become of no effect unto you. Whosoever of you are justified by the law, ye are fallen from grace. For we through the Spirit wait for the hope of righteousness by faith.
So then I ask you, based upon what we're reading, and especially, one of Paul's writings, do we then still have to be circumcised?
I don't think so.
I don't know, huh? See, probably after that, shoot, we good. Well, let's see. And one of the things what I want you to think about is, what is it that circumcision means? If I may call on a couple of people. Here, may you please, sir, be mic bearer. Oh, you got another mic? Man, I appreciate you. I love you. Once again, husband and wife working hard, huh? Appreciate both of y'all. All right. Let's see. I'm going to go left to right. All right. May I get Barack? May you please mention anything? What circumcision? What comes to mind? What do you think of? What does it mean? Anything you've read in the scriptures. And then Nama, may you write on the board whatever it is he brings.
Removing the foreskin.
Okay, removing the foreskin. All right, excellent. Right on this. So he said the foreskin, circumcision. So overall, we're dealing with circumcision. First thing we got is removing the foreskin. And then while you're working on that, all right, let's hear from someone else. Now, what comes to mind when you think of circumcision? Anything you read in the scriptures, what comes to mind? What does it mean? What relevance does it have?
To cleanse the heart, circumcise the heart.
Cleanse the heart. Good, good. So the first one we have is removing the foreskin, right? The second one we have was what, sis?
To cleanse the heart.
Cleanse the heart. Okay, cleanse the heart. Let's get that. Cleanse the heart. And we get the next one. Hananiah. What comes to mind when you think of circumcision? What you got for me? Anything you've read in the scripture, anything that comes to mind?
Pretty much, you come one with the Most High.
Come one with the Most High.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Let's put that up there too. Becoming one with the Most High. Got that one too. Now next, let's see. Dan and Masi, y'all got something for me? Anything for circumcision? What you got?
Trimming your old ways.
Trimming old ways. I like that. Let's get that. Why I'm having you do that? Because this gets you thinking as we go into it. Other things that circumcision means Sometimes we just see one thing and we think of one. Oh, you got one for me? Oh, the water, elder. Give it. My pops got one.
Set
Yes, sir.
apart. Set apart.
Set apart. All right, let's get that. That's another good one. Set apart. We got set apart from karatazah. Set apart. Good, good. My man live. Hey, real quick. What does circumcision mean to you? Anything that you got. We're writing it on the board right there. Anything circumcision, when you think of circumcision, anything when you reading the scriptures, what does it mean to you? What does it mean? Anything that you've read, anything you've seen. Moving the foreskin, cleansing the heart, becoming one with the Most High.
More spiritual or physical?
Either or, whatever you got, whatever come to mind. What you got for me?
Well, first thing that come to mind is just keeping the law from that, because it is a law that we're supposed to keep.
Okay, keeping the law. We got that. Keeping the law. Yeah, you put that. Keeping the law. It's still the right answer. All right, all of these are right answers. So good. So we got enough answers. These are the things I want you guys to meditate on as we go through this, because remember, when we're dealing with circumcision, we're dealing with all of these things. All of these things are inclusive. So no different than when you deal with the word law. Many laws, right? So actually, what comes to mind with law? There's different things that come to mind when you're dealing with the laws of the scriptures, right? So that's what we're dealing with the word. That means different definitions, because even as Lob said, we talking physical or we talking spiritual. Hey, we're talking about it all right? So let's go ahead and let's get Genesis. Actually, get Genesis chapter 17. Hold that. We're going to get Exodus chapter 12. So we're at Galatians chapter 5, verse 1 through 6. So do we need to be circumcised? Well, we'll talk about one in particular. Get Exodus first, chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12, and read verse 48. We're going to be in this chapter for a little bit, but we're going to jump to Genesis. Get Exodus chapter 12 and read verse 48.
Book of Exodus 12, verse 48. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. Salakia. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord.
Because one of the things we're getting into, we got coming up is Passover, right? Passover was one of the particular feasts that it was mandatory. In order for you to keep it, you must be circumcised, all right? Read.
Let all his males be circumcised.
Let who?
All his males be circumcised.
So all males, all right? Because some Hamitic customs are actually, they practice circumcising the female, but that's not scriptural, all right? So that's the way of the heathen. Scripture say, let all thy what?
All his males be circumcised.
Read.
And then let him come near and keep it. And then he shall be as one that is born in the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
Ooh, so here we are. We're dealing with, it says, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. So dealing with both that has a physical context and a spiritual context, all right? And when they get both. So it's a no uncircumcised person can be able to partake of the Passover, all right? So when did this law change? Because there's still many that out there that believe, may not be you, but many camps, many doctrines that you don't have to be circumcised. As we read, or some may take, reading Galatians chapter 5, verse 1 through 6, right? It can be, someone could take a look, I ain't got to be circumcised. You better do the whole law. I can't do it. But what did the Most High say? Most High said, look, you got to be circumcised. So that means either one, Paul is lying. He's bringing in some other doctrine that some try to put on him. Or two, there's a different understanding that he's conveying in when he's saying that, right? So it has to be generally one of those two. And which one is it? All right. So now go ahead and get Exodus chapter 12. Skip by read verse 43 through 44.
Exodus 12, verse 43. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof.
So no stranger. When we're dealing with stranger, you're dealing with someone or something that is unusual, unfamiliar with. So that's both dealing with someone who doesn't know, because many people say, well, how come we can't just have people from outside keep the Passover? They're still strangers in the Passover. They don't know what it is that they're celebrating. They don't know the relevance or the significance of it, which we'll deal with once again later on in the lesson. And then as well as when you're dealing with the strangers, also dealing with the other nations. There were stipulations on how they must first be in order to partake. All right, so read on.
But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof.
Right, so that was one of the every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. There was a requirement. Read on.
A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof.
Right, so a foreigner, a hired servant, someone that you just imagine, you just went down, you could have had it, put it in layman's terms for us, how we can kind of see it as relevant. Imagine I'm over here working on my house. You know, I'm working on my house, I'm renovating, and I just, hired some people. It could have been, some people to come eat my mobile, whatever it is, to come work on my house. And he's like, hey, man, you want to keep Passover with me? It's not just something just passing through that you have somebody that they're just there and now they're just going to keep it. No different than like think about with King Solomon when they were building a temple and just having Hiram just, hey, you want to just come through, keep Passover? No, there were rules, regulations, things that they had to be following. One, they had to be in compliance with the law. Read on.
Verse 46. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth out of the flesh abroad out of the house. Neither shall ye break a bone thereof. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it.
Mm-hmm.
And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee.
So in context, when one of the other nations would sojourn or be with us, because they would be with us, they would stay amongst us when we were in our land. Read.
And will keep the Passover to the Lord. Let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it.
Mm-hmm.
And he shall be as one that is born in the land.
Because dealing with Israel, we were born in the land. Read.
For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
So no one that's physically uncircumcised, nor anyone that is unclean, through not applying or keeping the laws, shall partake of Passover. Read verse 49.
One law shall be to him that is homeborn.
So one law shall be unto him that is homeborn, one who is native to Israel. Read.
And unto the stranger that sojourneth among you.
And when the other nation would sojourn or live amongst us. Go ahead and get Genesis chapter 17, verse 10 through 14.
Book of Genesis 17, verse 10.
Hold on 1 minute. Let me get it real quick. But that was what you'll read. Nothing changed when dealing with the Most High when he made the covenant of circumcision with Abraham. What did Abraham and all of his servants have to do? Read that in Genesis chapter 17 and verse 10.
This is my covenant, which ye shall keep.
Which you shall what?
Which ye shall keep.
So this is a part of the Most High's covenant, which you have to keep. Read.
Between me and you and thy seed after thee.
That he's making with the Most High. And at this point in time, Abraham, that will pass down from Isaac to Jacob, who became the patriarch of the Israelites, the forefather, and would pass on to all of his children, being the Israelites. Read.
Every man child among you shall be circumcised,
and
ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you. Every man child in your generations, he that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed.
Right. So even once again, when the strangers among those that are not of our seed, they have to keep these laws too. Other nations couldn't dwell with us and worship their gods and things of that nature. Not at all. They had to submit to these particular laws. The only reason why now we won't keep Passover and things of that nature with the stranger because we're not in power. We're not the ones that are bringing them into subjection at this point in time under this government and authority. That'll be for a later time, and they'll have to keep tabernacles just like us. They'll have to keep the new moons and everything just like us because it's a government that's coming. It's a system. It's not, many people look at the Bible and they see it just as a religion, just something that you do, just something that you kind of practice. Well, no, this is our government. This is our system. No different than Esau's rules. You got to stop at that red light. That's law to keep order, but that's also part of the government. No different than paying your taxes. No different than, you having to, whatever it is, and shoot, even you working and getting taxed. All of these things are part of his government, how he runs and operates his system. Same way with us. This is when you read the scriptures from Genesis to all the way down to Deuteronomy, everywhere in between. These are all the laws that were set up on how we were to run our nation in the same way that you read about it here, or the same way it's going to be set up in the future. Without all of that?
No.
Oh, continue reading.
13. He that is born in thy house and he that is bought with money must needs be circumcised.
It's
And
optional.
must needs be circumcised.
So once again, when you're reading from the establishment of the covenant made with Abraham, and also going back when Moses was redelivering it to the children of Israel, did you notice a change? Did you notice where the Most High made a change to where you no longer have to keep this, or this no longer applies? It's the same. It's synonymous. You're still seeing it. Read on.
And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant.
That's it. The covenant is supposed to be within our flesh as men as an everlasting covenant, because it goes back to, as we were dealing with the things we're writing on that board, once again, becoming one with the Most High and keeping the Most High's laws through, as we dealt with removing the foreskin, which is a part of not only cleansing our heart, cleansing our mind, but reminding us to keep our mind cleansed, reminding us of that blood covenant that we made with the Most High. Let's from there. Let's get we're going to focus a little more on that cleanliness. Let's get First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 48. That's the other thing. And keeping that Galatians in mind, we're dealing with one of the things we're dealing with is cleanliness. Other meanings, but let's get First Maccabees chapter 1 and let's read verse 48.
Book of First Maccabees 1, the 48th verse reads.
Now, start at verse 41 so we get it in context for those who may not be familiar with what's going on here. So we're dealing with the kingdom of the Greeks, dealing with the Maccabean dynasty. All right.
Verse 41, First Maccabees, chapter 1. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
So King Antiochus, who was one of the rulers at that point in time over the kingdom of the Greeks, he was trying to have everyone be one people, as they say, New World Order. Read.
And everyone should leave his laws, so all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king.
Right, and that's the thing. So everyone should leave off their laws, their customs, and become one people, one government, one world power, one religion. All right, so now let's skip down to where we were. Skip back down. Let's start with verse 48.
48th verse reads, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanliness and profanation.
Right. So now here's the thing. The goal is always to do what? What is the goal? Why do they fight so hard to pollute us? Someone answer that. What is the goal? You got me? What is the goal? Anybody. Man, anybody. Go ahead, pass it to her.
To keep us in sin.
Keep us in sin, right? Absolutely. Read verse 49.
To the end they may forget the law.
That they might what?
Forget the law.
To the end goal, the end result was to make sure that you forgot the law. That's always been the objective, to make you unclean, to profane you, to make sure you forget the law. But why would they want us to forget the law? What happens? Get Judith, chapter 5. Get Judith, chapter 5. Let's get 17 through 21.
Book of Judith 5, 17th verse. And whilst they sin not before their power.
Was they what?
Whilst they sin not before their power.
Read.
They prosper.
They what?
They prosper.
It said when we sin not against the Most High, we prospered. But who's saying this? Is this Ezekiel? Is this Isaiah? Is this even an Israelite? Who's saying this? Nah, you look like you know. Who's saying? Who's talking? Yeah, who's talking? I don't need a specific person. In general, generalize it. Huh?
Probably an Israelite.
Nah.
Oh, no, yeah, not Israelite, heathen.
Yeah. It's the
They're
heathen.
talking about the Israelite.
It's the heathen. Exactly. What's the relevance in that?
Verse 5.
All right, I'll let you think. Go ahead. Go ahead. What's the relevance in it?
To get us to sin.
Get us to sin, right? Good. We're going to come back and we're going to focus on it. Keep reading. We'll let it unfold.
And whilst they sin not before their power, they prosper, because the power that hateth iniquity was with them. But when they departed from the way which he appointed them, they were destroyed in many battles, very sore.
They were what?
Destroyed in many battles, very sore.
Right.
And were led captives into a land that was not theirs. And the temple of their power was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by the enemies.
Heathen sure know a lot, right? They got detail on us. Read.
Verse 19. But now are they returned to their power, and are come up from the places where they were scattered, and have possessed Jerusalem, where their sanctuary is, and are seated in the hill country, for it was desolate. Now, therefore, my Lord and governor, is if there be any error in the people, and they sin against their power, let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up, and we shall overcome them. But if there be no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord now pass by, lest their Lord defend them, and their power be for them, and we become a reproach before all the world.
So the biggest thing, going back to like I asked, what's the relevance in this? Just like Nas said, man, they know the game. Y'all ain't hear me, huh? They know the game. Y'all ever played? Come on now. How many of y'all ever played a board game? Monopoly. How many of y'all played? Even online, y'all played Monopoly, right? Or y'all played the game of life, you know, with the little peg, the little starter car. Some of y'all, what biggest game do you play like all the time? What big game did like the biggest game that come to you that you always play? Let me see. You're right. What game you always playing? Cards? What's your favorite? Spades? Or which 21? What's your favorite? Huh? What'd you say?
Oh, pity pat.
Pity pat. And you know that game, right? So because you know the game, you know how to play. And if you know how to play, you know what moves to make to be successful. Y'all hear me? The enemies know the game. They know how to play. All you got to do is follow the instructions. That's it. All you got to do is follow the instructions. If the objective is, in order for us to prosper, is to keep the law, if I'm your enemy and I don't want you to prosper, what must I then do? Keep you breaking the law. That way, I stay in power. I'm good. It's simple. The objective is for you to win. Me as your enemy, the objective is for me to keep you losing. That's it. I have to find a way to make sure you don't win. Because I got the rule book right here. Golly. That's your enemy. Got the rule book. He can pick it up just like you. He can read it just like you. He says, well, look, I may not get all the spiritual hoobie-doobie God wash like how you got it, not being a special people and all, but I know what thou shalt hearken mean. And if thou hearken not, and if thou do not diligently, I know what that means. All these curses shall come with shoot. I'm going to make sure I pour it on. You ever see somebody that get into the game, they be extra, you know, you see the other brothers playing domino, you see Isaiah and I got, ha! That's Esau. And your enemies. They be out there, ha! Got him. Woo! Them Israelites dump trucking on me today. Man, that's us. We be dump trucking the dominoes. That'd be us. If you want to liken it, hey, you could liken it that game. We be dump trucking. We be giving Esau and all the other nations all the points. Because they know the game. Get Esther, chapter 14, verse 6. Let's say the rest of Esther, huh? The Apocrypha. Esther 14 and 6. Now, of course, this is Israel talking, this is Esther. Read 14 and 6.
Book of Esther 14 and verse 6.
Read.
It reads, and now when we have sinned before thee.
And we have what?
Sinned before thee.
That's always coming up. Always that word, huh? Golly. All right. Continue.
Therefore hast thou given us into the hands of our enemies. Because we worship their gods, O Lord, thou art righteous.
See that? Because now we have sinned before thee. Therefore hast thou given us into the hands of our enemies. Well, guess what? If I'm the enemy reading this, the Most High just gave me the way how to win over y'all. You want to win? That's how. Keep them in sin. And guess what? They will always be under me. They will always be my servants. As long as I continue to keep them in sin, as long as I continue to keep them unclean, as long as I continue to keep them uncircumcised. That's the goal. Because when you deal with, once again, the law of circumcision, this is a big part of it. It's a part of keeping the laws. It's a part of keeping ourselves holy, clean, and just as we put up there, set apart, right? And set apart unto the Most High, which is synonymous with being what? Holy. Being that holy people. But let's continue. Get 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 60 through 63. And then we're going to skip down to verse 53. Or actually, I said skip up, huh?
1 Maccabees 1, verse 60.
Mm-hmm.
And that at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women.
Ooh, why that? They put some of our women to death? Why?
That had caused their children to be circumcised.
To be what?
Circumcised.
So even then, we're reading now, we didn't jump, fast forward it now. We was in, then with the Persian and Meton, now we in the Greeks. So now you had some of our women being put to death because they had caused their children to be circumcised. Now, mind you, if that was something that wasn't important, why would these women choose to continue to circumcise their children, knowing that, as we just read not too long ago, King Antiochus had proposed that, look, that's illegal now. According to my standard, they said, well, look, according to the Most High standard, that's still law. I still have to do it. I still have this obligation to fulfill. And still jeopardizing their lives and the lives of the children, all to be circumcised. All to have their young men to be circumcised. But some would argue it's not that important. It's not that big. Well, once again, I haven't seen anywhere where it's been diminished, where it's been shown in that light, to not have been taken so seriously. Let's continue. Continue reading down.
And they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them.
Think about that. Imagine someone taking your child, your baby boy, and slinging around by the neck. Imagine putting a noose on a baby and swinging him around. and look at the babies that we do have, especially the baby boys. Look at Shiloh over there. Imagine someone taking a noose, putting it around his neck and swinging him around to put him to death. Could you imagine that? We're in the time of the Greeks, so imagine a bunch of Edomites doing that. Because Naaman chose to circumcise them. Think about it. You would think, in one level, why are they even so concerned with that? That should be like crumbs to them. That should be, as we kind of say, that's just petty. They just being petty. But because they knew and understood, I know how to play the game. I got to keep you in sin. I got to keep you dirty. You're cleaning yourself up. You circumcising that child, you're making him clean. And remember, Esau, he's read the scriptures. As we just read in Judith and Esther, they read the scriptures. They know how the Most High feels about it. Think about it. The heathen know how the Most High feels about circumcision, and they know the Most High takes it seriously. So why wouldn't you? Food for thought. Think about it. Because you would think, why would they take it that far over something like that that would be, in the eyes of what you would think for the heathen, something small? You just cut the foreskin, something so small. It becomes big to them because they know how big it is, not necessarily for you, but for the Most High. They understand the significance of circumcision to our God better than some of us do. It's kind of sad. And you still have many of us arguing, well, shoot, you ain't got to be circumcised. I mean, you. But yet and still, the heathen have always had it in such a high regard that they're willing to pass laws against it just to keep you down. Ain't that a shame? Oh, boy. Somebody go hear me. They care that much to see you fall in something that big. As some may say. Something small, something petty, as some may say, right? Which goes to show you how much that they truly know and understand how powerful these words are, how powerful that one act of circumcision really is. And yet and still, you have many Israelites who would gamble on whether or not they should do it with themselves or with their own sons. If the heathen have enough fear in their heart to say, well, shoot, we got, hey, Bob, hey, you see this? Bill, hey, get a look at this. Hey, I'm serious. Their God, hey, he gets pissed about this. We got to do, hey, put a law in place. We'll just have it, write down Penal Code 2456. We'll just have it Prop 64 for next year's ballot. We got to put it into this. This could be our own undoing, you know. And if we keep this will keep them in sin for a long time. And boy, I hope their God, Yahweh, brings some harsh stuff on them for this. Boy, I hope. You got to take their lives, Bob. I'm telling you, got to take their lives. That's the only biggest thing they care about. Put some fear in them. You got to put the fear of their God in them. You know, you gotta have something. They have these conversations. Think about it. They got to be talking about it in order to bring it forth. It wasn't just something they just pulling laws out of a hat. So we're going to bring up, sure, yeah, definitely we should ban that. Sure. But of course, they'll disguise it as many you have seen in the media, sparsely, dealing with, well, circumcision, it's just endangerment of the child. It's child cruelty, really. They should be the ones to really determine and dictate if that's something that they want to do. You can't just put your hands on the child like that. That's just cruel. I don't know. Parents should probably get arrested. That's really too far. How many of you guys have seen articles or you've seen others pushing that particular type of agenda or motive? You've seen it, right? Or you may have heard it here and there. That's just wrong. How could you do that? So would you want me to cut your finger off? Huh? You're just going to cut his skin off. He's in pain. Think about the baby. As the Most High says, hey, the wisdom of this world is foolishness, right? Even as he says in Isaiah 55:8, my thoughts aren't your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, thus saith the Lord. So with all of those things, hey, that may be how you may feel, but that don't mean that's how the Most High feel. And that's what we have to understand. How does the Most High feel about these things? Continue reading. You start at verse 61 again.
61. And they hang the infants about their necks and rifle their houses and
think
slew
about
them.
that. It was so serious. Not only had to hang the infant, but imagine, we got to go. They probably got, I don't know, they probably got more kids. You know, them Israelites get down. They got a lot of them. Go through their house. Make sure ain't none of them, no more hiding in there. Where you live? Let me make sure, get their address. Get it here, John. Yeah, I see them. Yeah, Compton, California. Yep, definitely get them. Go through everything. They probably got cousins and the whole nine there. I know they get down. So it's more than one of them in that house. I'm watching. Now imagine it's that serious. They had to rifle the house, everything. Go through it, trash it, looking for stuff. Read.
And slew them that had circumcised them.
And kill the mothers too. Don't need them damn wenches circumcising anymore. Trying to keep their laws. That's how they feel. They'll take it that far. Read.
Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved.
They was half-stepping?
Fully resolved.
It said many in Israel, not all, but many in Israel were fully resolved to do what?
And confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing.
See that? Read.
Wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant.
The what?
The holy covenant.
See that? They did not want to profane the holy covenant. We read about that covenant earlier this evening, right? They wanted to make sure they did not profane that covenant. And one of the number one ways they would have done is to not have their children circumcised. Because that means they would have been unclean. They would have been left in an unclean state. And that goes back to, once again, like we put on the board, they would have been set apart, but they would have been set apart from the Most High instead of being set apart from the world and from the heathen. That thing that some may feel is small, it's real big. That's even what the Most High tries to teach us. Even as we're coming into that spirit of Passover, it just takes a little bit of leaven to do what, Nina? A little bit of leaven does what? Huh? My baby don't feel good. It's all right. Leave her alone. She got it. It's okay. Go ahead. Aiden. You thinking? A little bit of leaven does what? Huh? What does a little bit of leaven do?
Increases like your pride or sin.
Increases sin, but the key word is what? You know it?
Pride.
That's not pride. What's the key word? A little bit of leaven.
Increase, rise.
Messiah, help him out. You know it? Huh? Say it.
Rises the loaf.
Rises the loaf, but the term the scripture used, you're right. It's just a different word choice. That's okay, but you got the right answer. A little bit of leaven does what to the lump? Pop's got you. Leaveneth the whole lump. Leaveneth the whole lump. Little bit of leaven, leaveneth the whole lump. Those little things matter. That's what the Most High is always trying to teach us. Even in this spirit of Passover, the little things matter and have greater significance than what it is that we may think or feel. Because remember, it's the Most High's laws. It's how he feels about it, not us. It's no different than I could come to your house. I could have some dirty boots on, dirty shoes, bringing mud in your house. I may not feel too much about it, but you may be like, damn, what the hell you doing, Negro? Better wipe your feet. That's how you can feel. Like, man, pissed me off when he came here. It's like he had no regard to it. Like, where your manners? Oh, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I mean, shoot. I mean, the floor dirty anyway. When the last time you cleaned it? You try to make small in someone else's house. Come on, when the last time you cleaned this floor? No, you ain't cleaned it yesterday, so it's dirty. It's germs all over this floor, man. Shoes ain't that bad. But yet and still not taking consideration how much it means for you. Just in the same regard, we don't take in consideration how much these things mean to the Most High. But yet and still the other nations do when it comes down to our downfall. From there, let's go ahead and get read verse 53.
Verse 53. And drove the Israelites into secret places, even wherefore they could flee for succor.
Right. So, and that's what's going to happen again. Because when that persecution comes, man, we got to flee. Just to keep these laws. Just to stay clean. Just to stay righteous. It's that serious. Let's go ahead from there. Get 1 Maccabees chapter 2, 40 through 46.
First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 40. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and loss against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. And that time, therefore, they decree, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all as our brethren that were murdered in secret places.
Right, because that's what started to happen. We started getting pushed with our backs up against the wall. As they say, hey, push a cat up against the wall and come out scratching. So because that's all the options we had left. Man, they took everything from us. They started passing laws. So, man, it got it harder for us to keep the law because they were passing laws against us with heavy penalties, putting us to death, locking us up. And then you put hits out on us. We got to flee. And now you sending people after us to kill us. So you know what? That's it. You know, even then you had some who, man, on Sabbath day, man, we ain't going to fight. We ain't going to profane the Sabbath day. But the other's saying, look, we can defend ourselves. You know, otherwise we're going to all get put to death. We got to fight. And that's the same time it's going to come to again. Read on.
Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law.
That's the thing. Devoted unto the law. That's who you're dealing with. That's who you want on your side. All of those who are devoted to the law, who will keep the law. Read.
Also, all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them.
Right, because all those fleeing from persecution, you know they was keeping law, otherwise they wouldn't be fleeing. They would have just conformed to the heathen, like many of our people did. Read on.
So they joined their forces and smote sinful men.
They did what?
Smote sinful men.
Read.
In their anger, and wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathen for succor. You
see that? And that's going to happen again. Going to be those who are going to, join and side with that righteous, and others who are going to run a master for help. That's going to be the option. You know, you may get put to death, but hey, at least you got put to death for righteousness. That's better than getting put to death for wickedness any day of the week. Read on.
Then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars. Verse 46. And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised.
What did they do?
Those they circumcised valiantly.
Exactly. It was happy. They said, shoot, put me to death. What? Let them heathen come. I'm ready for them. I'm circumcised. I'm circumcised everyone I find. Everyone. I'm doing it. Shoot. That's the punishment for the heathen too. Y'all getting circumcised too. So y'all feel that stain of righteousness. Hope it burn. Everything. I tie them up. I make them keep the Sabbath and everything. Tie them up. You ain't no buying, selling, and that's it. They torture us through making sure we don't keep the law. I'm gonna torture them, making sure they keep the law.
Fast for a week.
Man, make them fast and everything. You keeping Day of Atonement. Everything. Make the wicked righteous. That's what they try to do to us, but the flip. Try to make the righteous wicked, man. Torture them with the opposite. Right. That's it. Rebel with righteousness. That's true love. But from there, let's go ahead and read verse 67.
67th verse reads, take also unto you all those that observe the law and avenge the wrong of your people.
And that's what we're going to start doing. When all these things happen, is that series of events. We in the event now. You slowly but surely passing laws, slowly but surely, but persecution's coming. It's going to get heavier and heavier. But we're going to get to these times. But hey, you just got to be ready. Get Judges 14. Because when we couldn't flee anymore, we had to fight. So get Judges 14, 1 through 4. 68 was a good one?
Yeah.
Read it.
Verse 68 reads, recompense fully the heathens.
See that? He said, recompense fully the heathen. Read.
And take heed to the commandments of the law.
That's it. Always take heed to the commandments of the law. Let's go ahead. Let's get that in Judges. Let's get Judges 14, 1 through 4.
Judges 14, verse 1. And Samson went down to Timnah and saw a woman of Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up and told his father and his mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife.
So once again, what people did Samson go to that he wanted for a wife? What people? Philistines, right? Keep that in mind. Read on.
Then his father and his mother said unto him, is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren or among all my people that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines?
There goes that word again. The uncircumcised Philistines. Making reference to what? The unclean heathen. The unclean nations. You want to go to these to the heathen? To these unclean bastards and take a wife of them? That's what you want to do? Ain't a beautiful woman amongst your brethren, amongst your people, amongst one of the tribes? Shoot, we got Baskin Israel, 12 flavors. Choose one. Man. Choose one, man. It's just 21, but flip. You know, that's all they did. Carried over the one to the other side. But it's supposed to be 12 flavors. That's what they meant to do. But nevertheless, read on.
And Samson said unto his father, get her for me, for she pleaseth me well. But his father and his mother knew not that it was of the Lord.
Right. So they didn't know the Most High was the one that put it on his heart or his spirit, you know. So it wasn't like Most High came and told him. It was just something that Samson felt he had to do. So, but of course, his parents know in the scripture, they still had to bring forth that general correction so that he'd understand, you know. So, but yet and still, that was the case with the Most High. But yet and still, remember, you want to be joined, or generally, even some of our people out there, you want to be joined into those that are unclean. But once again, that's like, and get the book of Judges. But it's like, think about it. It's like going, all right, like most of you, when you take a bath, you like to take a bath in some water like this, some clean water, right? Right? Man, the rest of y'all just looking like, I hope so. Look, how many of y'all gonna go and just take, I don't know, just take a bath in some mud to try to get clean? Don't make no sense, right? So that's kind of the mindset with a lot of these things. And pretty much, even like Samson's parents felt like, how the hell? How you gonna go and gonna try to take a mud bath to get clean? That don't make no sense. That's the outrage of it. You know, if that may be an analogy or metaphor, it may help you or similar to put a little bit of thought on it. But go ahead and get the book of Judges 15 and 18. And Samson knew, because he even said it later on. Judges 15 and 18.
Book of Judges 15, verse 18. And he was sore athirst and called unto the Lord and said, thou hast given this great deliverance unto the hand of thy servant. And how shall I die for thirst and fall into the hand of the uncircumcised?
So he knew after he had slew a lot of the Philistines, he said, damn, You know, I'm tired after all that fighting. And, man, I'm going to die out here because of thirst and be given over here to the uncircumcised? Dealing with the unclean, right? So when you're dealing with the law and you're dealing with the covenant circumcision, law of circumcision, you're dealing with an aspect of uncleanliness when you're not circumcised. That being circumcised makes you clean. It gives you an aspect of cleanness physically, and it gives you another aspect of cleanness spiritually, both of which we're getting. So go ahead, get 1 Maccabees chapter 1, 11 and 15.
First Maccabees 1, verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men,
Right.
who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are around about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
So that's it. And remember, this were wicked men, wicked devices from wicked men thinking, let us go back and make a covenant or covenants, oaths, agreements with the other nations to try to find peace with them. Let's just give in, man. It ain't that serious. And you have to be mindful because it's always our own people, our worst enemy. We hurt ourselves, man. As much as you got a brother who's up here, man, we're gonna build a house. We're gonna build a house, man. We're gonna house everybody, man. I'm gonna start laying the brick. Here come a coon. Come on now. We ain't gotta build our own house. Come on, master, take good care of us now. You ain't gotta start causing problems. Let's put that brick away. Let's set it off to the side now. You ain't gotta start building over there now. You always got that. And that's always going to be there, both from men and women. You're always going to have the coon in the house. My uncle love that. You always going to have the coon in the house. You don't. And the thing why I'm bringing that up, because you got to make sure you see it. Because just as much as it can be out there, it can also be in here. Because remember, everybody has, and my favorite term is I like to do with reality versus expectation. You can have the expectation that when anything happens, you can do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. That don't mean that's gonna be the damn reality when stuff actually happens. And I have seen it. I have seen it, man. And even like man, Naqual, you probably watch. You give some war stories too, man. I was in Afghanistan. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen a E7, which is pretty much a very high enlisted officer. So very high enlisted soldier. And he's pretty much like, man, imagine, man, if I could put it in terms like, all right, imagine this. I'm looking at this E7 and this dude, he gets, not the E7, it was another sergeant. It was E5. He got shot. Bullet came, went in through the mouth, spiked up his tongue, broke his jaw into the shoulder. Dude bleeding out. The head medic completely froze. It was 4 ranks below him that saved the day. 4 ranks below him. That was Johnny on the spot. He's down, bam, I'm in, I'm on him. Everything he needs. That's that reality versus expectation. Just because it's like, shoot, just because I sit here behind a desk and I teach, that don't mean when sugar honey iced tea at the fan that all of a sudden I'm gonna uphold these laws and my life is on the line. I might coon out. It's the truth. Let me get a witness. Ayakar. As a witness, have you seen brothers that were your peers growing up, even your elders, have you seen some fall from this truth?
Absolutely.
It's happened. You don't think when and mind you, one last thing. By any chance, was it a life and death situation to the cause of them falling off? Was a gun to their head. Was Esau on them like, hey, you better convert or else?
Negative.
So if it didn't even get to that point, and you have some that have fallen through both his peers and superiors, you don't think when it's a life and death situation that those numbers can increase? Think about it. There'll be some to your left and to your right. When that happens, they gonna get ghost. That's just the truth. Because the ball game has changed. It's one thing to come when, all right, well, yeah, it ain't got to that point yet, just some uncomfortabilities. But when you're literally talking life and death, and I gotta see my husband die, or my wife die, or my children die, some of that's more than what they can bear. That's why everything you're going through now, all these afflictions, it's like every year around the Passover season, you're always dealing with affliction. That's the Most High grooming you up to try to help you be prepared for when the test and adversity gets greater and greater and greater and greater, you be able to bear it. Because you've already been through a lot of events to where it's sharpened you up to get better for the next event. To get better for the next event. It's always practice, always training. But at the same time, it's always game day. You're always in the midst of both. Because all of these tests and everything, just like I tell the people, man, it's like, I didn't even really notice the affliction this Passover. It's still, yeah, things happen. But the thing that I've noticed, I've been in truth almost 10 years. And what I've noticed is year by year, man, I'm thankful for the good and the bad. And I thank the Most High for the good and the bad. Man, and I appreciate it. And especially, I appreciate the bad and the challenges because the biggest thing you notice is the growth. Your reach that year, whether it's that year 3, year 4, whatever it is, man, it just gets easier and easier. Because you notice where you're at now. Those little things that once you've been through, it was one year, it was like, man, I want to say 2014 or 15, man, I almost got evicted. Like, I got the notice and everything, you know. But it was like, man, all the way up until the day I had to get out, it was like, man, last minute, the Most High brought some funds through, you know, and saved me. And that was one of the things, especially with that experience, man, I never tripped with finances after that. I know the Most High always find a way. So after he took me to that point, I knew, man, Most High always find a way. It came through last minute. But you may have had other experiences too, different ones that set the standard of, okay, the Most High is going to come through. He'll come through. And even like, man, I was a big witness saying through my wife that finally got hurt, understand the same thing. That's what hit home for her, to make sure to have the same sound and faith, because it was a situation where, man, Most High wants you to be homeless, you will be homeless. There's no way you can stop it if that's what the Most High wants you to do. That's it. That'll be what it will be. However, you do everything in your power to where, look, I applied for jobs, I did my part. I just gotta wait for Most High to do his. That's it. You do your part. Most High do his. And he's gonna lay everything out the way that he wants to do. Whatever your trial or tribulation is. Whatever, hey, you got some money, you got your tax money, and then you got into a car accident. You know, well, the Most High gave me the money, and the Most High wants me to put it towards this now. Maybe it's something I could do to change that to where in the future, all right, he may not do that. It could have been my fault. Something I did wrong. Maybe I didn't pay enough alms this month I was supposed to. Maybe I got a raise, and I got a raise for my job, but I didn't raise my alms. Most High said, I got you. Don't worry. I got the fix. So these are all things, man, put in perspective with these trials and tribulations, man, and how real it can get. And that fire I went from 0 to 100 real fast. All it takes is a moment. All it takes is for one law to get passed, and all hell starts breaking loose. One law. We could be one law away from all hell breaking loose for us. It start getting real hot. But go ahead. Continue reading. Read verse 15.
Verse 15. And made themselves uncircumcised. And
made themselves what?
And made themselves uncircumcised.
See that? Think about that. How the hell you make yourself uncircumcised? You know, So I taking it back with he was doing Nicodemus. I be born again. You go back again through your mama's womb. Mama, I need a second reentry. I need to start over. Reset. Help me out. I know many moms say, man, boy, you better get away from me. Playing with me. You too big. Nevertheless, but yeah. So how did they make themselves uncircumcised? How did that happen? Go ahead. You got me? You got the mic? Need it. You got him? Hit him.
There's not only the flesh, but your heart has to be circumcised as well.
Yeah, there you go.
And then when you stop following laws, you uncircumcise yourself from the heart.
Absolutely. That's my son. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. See that? Beautiful answer, sir. Beautiful answer. So definitely. So a situation where you become uncircumcised through not keeping the laws, and your heart, your mind, as I want to say now, I was mentioning earlier, becomes uncircumcised, unclean. You start forsaking the laws, read.
And made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief.
And that's what happens. So we're getting and unfolding all these different aspects of circumcision and how they play out. So go ahead from there. Get Ephesians 2:11. Then we're about to get back to that Galatians. Get Ephesians 2:11.
The book of Ephesians 2, verse 11. Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh.
He said, look, you got to remember a thing back. In past time, you used to be a Gentile. How did you used to be a Gentile? Can the Chinese men say, no longer Chinese. Now, I am Hawaiian. You should call me Palamaru. Can you do that? No, you can't do that, right? So that means, once again, with Gentile, there's another definition. Read, because once again, as we were just reading, this comes from the time of the Greeks that we're reading about in First Maccabees. That's why that history is so important, because many of our people became Gentiles. They became heathen. They became unclean. Read.
Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands.
So now you got the uncircumcision and the circumcision. Because remember, and he's telling them to remember, think back, think about that history. As it says, what, in Romans 15:4, Jeremiah 8:8. Remember that history of what happened and why in time past you were a Gentile and uncircumcised, and were called uncircumcised by those that were circumcised, because the uncircumcision came through to those who literally chose not to be circumcised, not to circumcise their children, but also chose to join themselves to the heathen and became unclean, became heathen and became uncircumcised. So what happened? You had a situation where now, generations later, think about the kids, think about the children. Think about the kids that later on came that now they're looking at, well, shoot, my daddy's better than your daddies. I know what my daddies did. My daddies didn't sell out. Y'all daddies was cooning. Y'all daddies been cooning since the 3rd grade. I know what y'all been doing. Y'all chose to coon. Y'all been cooning out. So now y'all just think, oh, after a couple generations, y'all just think God just gonna accept y'all? That's what y'all think gonna happen? I'm sorry, that ain't gonna happen. Nope. I still don't accept y'all. So you mean to tell me that y'all that chose to go ahead and sell out, y'all think y'all gonna get back in the covenant, and y'all think y'all gonna be able to, that Most High just gonna accept y'all again? That's the biggest argument right there. Because think about it. Think about how you would feel just one generation. Imagine if it was your father and mother that you're thinking, or your brother and sister who got killed, your uncle, auntie who got killed and murdered for keeping the law, you're their child. You made it. But you remember your mom died circumcising you or circumcising your brother. And here it is. You got the children of the coon thinking they're entitled to everything it is you are and feeling, well, it's not that bad. I mean, it's cool. You probably look at them sideways. You feel some type of way. Especially us as Israel. Think about it. We don't like people just sliding by. We don't like anybody sliding by. We don't even like if she was on. You mean I'm paying alms and they're not paying? But they sitting at the feast too? They can go. But imagine generation, imagine it was split. You got the kids over here, the coon outs, the ones that then sold out, and they saying they're entitled to everything that you are. And then you got the ones over here. Now, we ain't started. We was revolutionary. We fought hard. Nope. That's for me to accept you is a disrespect to what it is my parents died for. For me to just be accepting and hanging out with the coons. Sounds so funny, yeah. Hanging out with the coons. You made me laugh, you guys. But that's what it is. That's what it came down to. And that's where that's what it says, wherefore remember that ye being time past Gentile in the flesh who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands. Read on verse 12.
That at the time you were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel.
Right, because they weren't the coons, they weren't brought up in the law. They was brought up in everything, Christmas and Halloween and all that stuff, and that's what they was keeping. They didn't know nothing about no Passover and New Moon and what's all that. You mean we got to keep that? So that's what it said, being aliens. You were strangers now to these things. This was foreign to you. Read.
Being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope and without the Most High in the world.
So at first they were without hope, but read on. 13 clarified what happened. Read.
But now in Christ Jesus, ye who sometimes were far off are made nigh to the blood of Yahweh Shai.
Exactly. There we go. Through Christ, that's what was able to help redeem them through that blood, through that sacrifice, and bring them back into the fold. But even then, even though that was the case, you still had a lot of our people who still had a problem with it. It was still something that they didn't accept. And that was hopefully through a little bit of relevance, that kind of helped make it stand out for you. But let's go ahead. And this is the same thing when we're reading in Galatians. Go back to Galatians, read chapter 5 and 6.
Galatians 5, verse 6. For in Jesus Christ, neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but faith which worketh by love.
Because now you have a situation. Where am I? I'm in the wrong book. Over here looking, no wonder words look different. You talking about Galatians? I'm in Ephesians. Oh, you done it before too, I understand. He said, I understand. I know, man. Woo. I was in Ephesians just now. You was too? Hey, we're the same spirit. We both made the mistake. It's all right. So it says, for Jesus Christ, neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but faith which worketh by love. Why is he saying that? Let's start. Get Galatians 5 and 1.
Galatians.
Let's get
5,
the understanding.
Verse 1. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free.
Right. Continue.
And be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage.
Right. So we're about to get this. So once again, circumcision isn't a vain act. And that's when you're dealing with the Pharisees and Sadducees. That's what it started to become, an act of vanity. They started to lose out because they started to think just because I'm circumcised, I'm good. And that's when going back to Christ with the washing of pots and cups, the whole thing, that they weren't being complete. You had a lot of the ones who were supposed to be the diehards for the laws, they started being partial with the law. And that's what Christ would get on them oftentimes about, being partial in the law and serving the Most High through partiality. Thinking just because you have fringes, you good. Just because you circumcised, you good. I'm circumcised. I'm in the covenant. But yet and still, you robbing. Yet and still, you committing adultery. Even going back to woman at the well in John. Hey, you caught the woman adultery. Hey, ye without sin, cast the first stone. Remember as he wrote down and he wrote in the sand and dirt? Why didn't they stone her? Because they knew they wasn't right. They was committing some of the same acts. That was the whole problem. But yeah, you think you circumcised, you just gonna make it. And that's what he was trying to teach them. And even the biggest thing, dealing with the circumcision, man, it doesn't matter if you were the ones who grew up in Jerusalem, or if you're the ones who you're the children, the ones who decide with the heathen, you both have the same chance and opportunity to come back to the Most High, be grafted back in and have a chance at salvation. Because otherwise, most of us in here wouldn't make it. Because we all at one point in time, well, mass majority of us, except for, a couple of the kids, we all kept Halloween, Christmas, New Year's. The circumcision, they would have rejected us. Pharisees and Sadducees would have rejected us. Nah, I can't get with y'all. Nah, see, y'all done kept Christmas. Y'all didn't have that honey glazed ham, huh? Y'all done had them pork chop, didn't y'all? Huh? Bet you loved it, didn't you? Huh? Yeah, see, I can't get with y'all. Nah, see. Nah, y'all been cooning since the third grade. I can't get with y'all. Nah. Man. But that's how it was. That's how it literally was. Go ahead and get Hebrews. But read Galatians chapter 5, verse 1, then get Hebrews 10, 1 through 4.
One again?
Yep.
Galatians 5, verse 1. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free.
We're going to get it part by part. That's the first part we're going to do. It says, stand fast. Therefore, when we say stand fast, you got to stand firm, stand strong. Therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free. What liberty are we dealing with? Get Hebrews chapter 10, 1 through 4. Then we're going to get 9 through 10. We're coming back to that. We'll break it down piece by piece for those that this may be a stumbling block for them.
The book of Hebrews 10, verse 1. For the law, having a shadow of good things to come.
Now, of course, once again, law is very ambiguous or vague. What law are we dealing with? All right. There's different law, different manner of laws. So, which it clarifies as we read on. Read.
For the law, having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never with those sacrifices.
Those what?
Sacrifices, which they offer year by year, continually make the comers thereunto perfect.
So what law are we dealing with? Sacrifice. Thank you. Good. Read on.
For then would they not have ceased to be offered, because that the worshipers once purged should have had no more conscience of sins.
Right, because the same thing with that, yeah, we sacrificed the animal, but that wasn't the true thing in the heart that cleansed it. The true thing that cleansed it was turning away from the sin and not committing the act. That's the true thing that we have to understand, because our people became vain in it. Well, I'm just going to sacrifice the animal. That's what God wants, isn't it? I mean, I'm good. Then that just become like the sin past. It's all right. I got plenty of sheep. I'm good. I got layaway. I'm good. That's what it becomes. No different than the isn't that how the Christian and Catholic Church work today? I'm good. I'm going to just pray and I'll be good. God will forgive me. Read on.
But in those sacrifices, there is a remembrance again made of sin every year.
Mm-hmm.
For it is not
dealing with Day of Atonement too. Read.
For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and goats should take away sins.
Skip down, read verse 9 through 10.
Then said he, Lo, I come to do thy will, O God. He taketh away the first, that he may establish the second.
Mm-hmm. And Christ became that new sacrifice. That's what he became. Take away the old from the bulls and the goats, bringing forth him to be that once and for all. Read.
By the which will we are sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all.
Mm-hmm.
And every priest standeth daily.
Now that's it. That's it. It was Christ once and for all. That's what we needed. Because many, once again, the same thing, they don't accept Christ. When you don't accept the aspect of him dying and rising, you're not, and that was the biggest thing with the Pharisees and Sadducees. Many didn't accept Christ for who he was and his purpose. They didn't accept him as the last sacrifice, and they didn't accept him as being the one who helped cleanse Israel and bringing Israel back under one banner, making it so that, hey, all our people can have the same aspect in salvation. Many of them weren't with that. Go ahead, get Hebrews 9:28.
The book of Hebrews 9, verse 28. So Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many, and unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin unto salvation.
And that's the key thing. So Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many. He was only offered once. And unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin unto salvation. So that's the thing that it is that we are looking for. All right, get Galatians chapter 5 and verse 1. So that's the key thing. Remember that he was making us free from with the law of sacrifice. That's the key thing that he was trying to free us from through his sacrifice. So we wouldn't have to continue to offer those offerings. That's the first thing. So that's the liberty or the freedom that we have with Christ. Now, read on. Galatians 5 and 1.
And be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage.
So if Christ died, his liberty to make us free from the law of sacrifice, been trying to make us free from being continually in offering these sins, what was it that we would be entangled back again with and be brought back to bondage? Well, let's see what makes us in bondage. Get 2 Peter chapter 2, 18 through 20.
Book of 2 Peter 2, verse 18. For when they speak great swelling words of vanity, they allure thoughts, they allure through the lust of the flesh, through much wantonness, those that were clean escape from them who live in error.
And that's the thing. That's the first key into unlocking Galatians chapter 5 and verse 1, when it deals with be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. Because once again, through lust, the lust of the flesh, through the much wantonness, those that were clean escape from them who live in error. Well, who lives in error? And what is error? Read on.
While they promise them liberty.
Promise liberty, because many say, oh, that Bible's bondage, the law is bondage. They try to think of the law as a whole. But read.
While they promise them liberty.
They promise us freedom, but their freedom, the freedom of the world, is what? Exactly. What'd you say, Kawada? There you go. You ain't got to whisper, girl. Say it out loud. We hear you. Go ahead. You got to be ashamed of sin. That's what the world feels is liberty. How? Well, see. Well, I mean, girl, what you waiting for? You ain't got to shoot. Wait for no man. You can have sex with anybody you want to. Be free. Oh, girl, you ain't got to be a suggestion to your husband and shoot. You tell him what to do. He's trying to keep you in bondage. Trying to tell you what to do, how to live your life. Girl, do what you want to do. You ain't got to listen to him. Same thing, man. You ain't got to worry about your baby mama and let her do her. You just do you. Man, she tripping, man. Leave her. Man, you got to worry about them kids. Let her deal with them. That's their freedom. That's what the world portrays as liberty. That's through their words. Hey, they try to lure you with liberty, but that's not that true liberty. That's false liberty. That's false hope. That's actually bondage. Read.
While they promise them liberty, they themselves are the servants of corruption.
The what?
Servants of corruption.
They are the servants of corruption. And if servants, once again, they are being brought back under what? Bondage. There we go. Piecing it together, right? You're being brought back under that bondage, which Kawada said is what? Sin. Read on.
For of whom a man is overcome, of the same is he brought in bondage.
Is he what?
Brought in bondage.
Brought in bondage. So that's what we're dealing with, Galatians chapter 5 and verse 1. So when it says, stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, through dying for us, being our sacrifice, to free us from our sins, so we don't have to sacrifice animals, and be not ye entangled again with the yoke of sin, which is bondage, especially through the doctrine of the Pharisees and Sadducees, who want you to continue to make these sacrifices, who don't accept Christ being the last sacrifice. Making more sense? All right, let's get verse 2.
Galatians 5, verse 2. Behold, I, Paul, say unto you, behold, I, Paul, say unto you, that if ye be circumcised, Christ shall profit you nothing.
Get Romans 2 and 23. Why? Why did Paul say that? Because once again, you have to understand where he's coming from. And get and hold on 1 minute. Hold that to get 2 Peter chapter 3 and read verse 15 and 16. This is just one that I wanted to get because in general, we're dealing with the Paul's writings or Paul's statements. You know, this is one thing that even Peter, you know, even mentioned regarding the stuff that he would talk about. Get 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 15 and 16. And then we're going to come back to where we were in Galatians 5. I mean, Romans 2 and 23.
The book of 2 Peter, chapter 3, verse 16.
15 and 16.
15 and 16. An account that the long suffering of our Lord is salvation, even as our beloved brother Paul, also according to the wisdom given unto him, hath written unto you.
So remember, Paul spoke according to the wisdom that was given to him. He spoke, imagine, you could say he spoke on a very collegiate level, but concerning the scriptures. He didn't speak on an elementary level. Paul wasn't your elementary teacher. He was like, all right, you're going to Paul, you're dealing with your collegiate level of thinking. So he's speaking to them that know the law, that have the particular understanding on everything else that I've been trying to abridge for you this evening. That's how he's speaking and delivering everything. But many people who aren't aware of that, they're just thinking, well, man, Paul be on some other stuff. He just be dealing, man, he be tripping. And nah, you just don't understand. You not on that level yet. Sorry to say. You know, that's what it is. Well, Paul, you signing up for man, like if y'all was in high school, whatever, you signing up for like AP classes. If you want to put on high school level, you know, you didn't surpass honor. You in AP classes with Paul. You know, he said you got to go back, read the Old Testament. You got to elementary, middle school it. You know, continue reading.
16. As also in all his epistles.
In what?
All his epistles.
In all his writings. Not just some of them, all his writing, Paul is speaking in a deeper level, on a higher level, using similitudes, using words that has this meaning, but yes, it also has this meaning or this reference. As he wrote on the board, circumcision has many meanings. Law has many meanings. Gentile, different meanings. Don't just see a word and start running off in what you think it may mean. Or the orthodox meaning of it. Orthodox is the norm. So, like when you may think of discipline, some people may orthodox thinking, they may think of chastisement or punishment. I'm in trouble. You think, I got to discipline you. But discipline also means structure and order. So, regimen. It's just which way are you running with it? Perception. All right, read on.
As also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood.
See that? Some things are hard to be understood. What is Paul talking about? I don't know what he's talking about. Read.
Which they that are unlearned and unstable.
See that? There's really the two problems. Either you're unlearned, meaning you don't have the proper knowledge and understanding to deal with those things yet. But you may in time if you study. Or you're unstable. You don't even have a good foundation to stand on. You believe in these doctrines. You believe in the doctrines over here. So you're unstable. Sometimes double-minded. So, of course, because you don't have as much stability in your doctrine or your belief or where you stand in certain things with the scriptures, you're going to be tossed to and fro with different winds of doctrines until You find a teacher to kind of help guide that and give you a better path and direction. But what do those that are unlearned and unstable do?
And unstable rest,
Mm-hmm.
as they do also the other scriptures unto their own destruction.
And that's it. You wrestle with it. You're fighting with, is it this? And maybe it's this over here. And maybe it's this. And he just on some other stuff. He probably just wicked individual. You know, that's what happens. And everything's to your own destruction. And that's how you even get other people. Nah, man, that New Testament, it be on some other stuff, man. It ain't even for the scriptures. It be talking about other stuff. No, it's not talking about other stuff. It's just dealing with the same stuff, but in a different way, in context of what's going on at that time. Because we're just dealing with after the Greek period, when many of our people were scattered, lost the knowledge in regarding to how to worship the Most High, how to worship God, what to do, how to be righteous. All these things they have to learn all over again. You have to learn your culture all over again. That you've been following the culture of the heathen. So there's a different doctrine that has to be taught. A lot of them didn't lose per se their whole identity in the sense of not knowing, okay, my pops, my moms, and forefathers were Israelites, but they lost their identity in the sense of their culture and everything, keeping the laws and how to apply them. So all these things have to be taught. So go ahead. Read Romans 2:23. We didn't read that.
Huh? Romans 3, right?
Nah, Romans 2:23.
So like Romans 2:23. It reads, thou that makest thy boast of the law, through breaking the law, dishonorest the most high.
That's what happens. Because that was the big thing with the Pharisees and Sadducees. They made their boast about the law, that they're big law keepers, but yet and still they were big breakers of the law because of partiality. They were big on these things, but yet and still these other things that they really were supposed to be big on, they wasn't keeping that good or not at all. So yet and still, what profit is Christ unto them? What profit is circumcision unto them then? None. But yet and still, you're tripping on these that are unclean, in so to speak, in your eyes, who are coming back into the fold, that are now trying to repent, now trying to keep the laws, and even, some of them even now have to really get circumcised. But yet and still, you're treating them like dirt. But you half-stepping, and yet and still, but you're righteous. And that's what Christ had to always have conversation with the Pharisees and Sadducees about. You tripping on them, but yet and still you're not tripping about yourself. That's why he has all those scriptures that, man, before you worry about the mote or smidget of wood in your brother's eye, remove the plank out of your own. So, and that's the biggest problem. Get 1 Timothy 4:8. We're gonna read the same instance here. Get 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 8. Like, same thing here. This is another example of how things can be used. 1 Timothy 4:8.
1 Timothy 4, verse 8. For bodily exercise profiteth little. But
see that? It don't matter if you work out or exercise. Those doctrines start too. But that's what wasn't the argument. The thing is that no different, because remember, you're dealing with the Romans. You also remember, many of our people are in the mindset of the Greeks. What were they big on? The Olympics and all these different things, and same thing, the gymnasiums. So we had to deal with that mindset of thinking that, it's same thing with our people in that lifestyle. It don't matter. You could bench press 500 pounds. If you ain't righteous, you still going to hell.
That's right.
You can't bench press that lake of fire. I mean, damn, it's the truth. Because what did he say? Read on.
For bodily exercise profiteth little.
But what?
But godliness is profitable unto all things.
That's the key thing. It got to deal with righteousness first. Don't matter if you're a track star. You could run laps and be the fastest one. You could be Usain Bolt, whatever it is. You ain't going to be able to run laps around that lake of fire. That's the truth. So what all does it profit at the end of the day? No different. The same thing reading in Galatians. Yeah, you could be circumcised all you want, be a boaster of the law, and yeah, I got circumcised 8th day and everything, man, just like Abraham. You know, just like he got circumcised, and I'm circumcised too. Shoot, just like Isaac and Jacob. But yet and still, you commit adultery, brother. Well, you know, I keep the law. Come on, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Get Galatians 5:3.
Book of Galatians 5, verse 3. I don't know what you were doing. Ephesians.
Mess around that Ephesians too, huh? They look alike, huh? Read on.
Galatians 5, verse 3. For I testify again to every man that is circumcised, that he is a debtor to the whole law.
Because that's what it is.
The whole law.
They were trying to teach and get them to understand certain principles. That look, you may make your boast of the law, but you still got to keep the law. Continue. Actually, get James 1:22-25.
Book of James 1, verse 22. But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves.
That's it. You got to be doers of the word and not hearers only, because other than that, you're deceiving yourself. And that's what many of the Israelites were doing. Many of the Pharisees and Sadducees were doing. Read on.
For if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass.
And that's what they was doing. Read.
For he beholdeth himself and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was.
Read.
But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed.
And that's the key thing you're trying to get and remember. Get James 2:21.
2:21. Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he had offered Isaac his son upon the altar?
Skip down and read verse 24.
Ye see then now that by works a man is justified, and not by faith only.
Right, it takes both. Read verse 26.
For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also.
Right, because faith is the application of your belief. That belief is the application of the law. You can't have faith without works. You have to be able to apply. And that's why I mentioned Abraham, because, yeah, he was justified through faith, but faith through works, because his actions that he did, not through just simply me just believing. They get 1 Timothy 5:21.
First Timothy 5, verse 21. I charge thee therefore, God and the Lord Jesus Christ and the elect angels, that thou observe these things without preferring one before another, doing nothing by partiality.
Right. And you're hearing all of these things keep coming up, because remember, this would have to go and teach against the doctrines of what it is that the Pharisees and Sadducees were doing. So even like Christ said, well, yeah, you can, follow some of the things, as they teach, because they're still teaching you out of the law. They're reading the law, but just don't do what they're doing, because they're walking in partiality. And that's all these things that to clarify. Get Galatians 5:4.
Galatians 5, verse 4. Christ has become of no effect unto you, whosoever of you are justified by the law.
Why? Read verse 21. Oh, Galatians 5 and 21. Read that.
Galatians 5, verse 21. Envying, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of the Most High.
And that's the key thing. You have to be able to keep everything that you're dealing with the law. All these things are things that any of these things you do, it takes you away from being able to have that acceptance with the Most High in the kingdom. Go ahead and from there, get Galatians 5:5-6.
Galatians 5, verse 5. For we through the Spirit wait for the hope of righteousness by faith. For in Jesus Christ neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but faith which worketh by love.
Why is that? Get Galatians 6 and 13.
Galatians 6, verse 13. Or neither they themselves who are circumcised keep the law.
Because that's the problem. That's the whole thing that he's getting at. Neither they that are circumcised themselves keep the law. Read.
But desire to have your circumcised.
Read it again.
But desire to have you circumcised, that they may glory in your flesh.
Because that was the big problem with the Pharisees and Sadducees. They were doing it in vain. It was all a vain act for them. It was more so to glory in the flesh rather than glorying in the Most High and actually being and loving to keep the laws. Everything was about the show. Everything was about boasting. Everything was about bragging. They lost the genuineness in keeping the scriptures and therefore didn't keep the scriptures holistically. That was the biggest issue that was had amongst them. From there, go ahead and get Romans 2 and 25.
Look at Romans 2, verse 25. For circumcision verily profiteth, if thou keep the law, but if thou be a breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision.
And that's the thing that he's talking about in Galatians. Circumcision only profits if you keep the law. Otherwise, you've made your circumcision uncircumcised. Of course, not the removing of the foreskin, but now you become unclean, even though you be clean, if Paul were to address it in that particular way. So even though, yeah, you be clean through, circumcision, but now you become unclean through your uncircumcision. So because you're not keeping the law the way you need to. So yeah, even though, yeah, you may say, well, I'm under the covenant now. I'm circumcised. I'm good. Nah, not really. If you're still breaking other laws, you're not as good as what it is you think you are. Because, well, now that circumcision, it doesn't do you no good. You might as well not be circumcised. Over here tripping on the uncircumcised. So that's the whole thing. All of those words and word choice and things of that nature were things he tried to make them understand that they was in the wrong. And lastly, go back to Galatians 6 and 13.
For neither they themselves who are circumcised keep the law.
Oh, read verse 12, then 13.
As many as desire to make a fair show in the flesh, they constrain you to be circumcised.
So that was it. Not necessarily that it was wrong to be circumcised, but their mindset about it was to make a show in your flesh. It doesn't mean that they were trying to get you to show your nakedness around, but just dealing with the bragging of it. That's what they were dealing with. Read.
Only lest they should suffer persecution for the cross of Christ.
Right. Meaning the aspect, because once again, they're thinking circumcision, salvation. That's what they're thinking. Lest they suffer persecution. See, I'm good. I should make it into the kingdom. But not realizing you've been walking in partiality, like we were dealing with earlier in Timothy and in James. You haven't been a full keeper of the law the way that you need to. Therefore, you're still going to be suffering that persecution if you don't change. So read on.
For neither they themselves who are circumcised keep the law.
And that's the key thing. They don't keep the law. They don't apply it. They take one thing and think that covers everything. No different than someone took the Sabbath. I keep the Sabbath. I'm good. Well, you keep the Sabbath, but yet and still, you still gossip, talebear. You over here, causing discord. You're not looking at everything else you're doing. You just think because, I keep the Sabbath. See, Most High said, man, he said, this Sabbath is a sign between me and you. See, I'm keeping the sign. I'm with the Most High. But yeah, still a whole lot of other stuff you're not doing. That shows you're not really with the Most High. That's showing the Most High the sign. You're not really with him. So it's no different than making those particular arguments. But read on.
But desire to have you circumcised, that they may glory in your flesh.
Right. So that's it, man. And hopefully got some little bit of understanding that, didn't go over, so I'm good. It's 9:19, so good. I didn't drag it out too much. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
talking about circumcision, it's kind of compared with Numbers 15. You know, when sometimes I know people wear fringes and they think they cool because they're wearing fringes.
Right,
And
exactly.
The way your fringes is to remind you to keep the law, but people wear fringes just for the glory of it, you know,
Right.
for themselves.
Could either like the style or they think in the same thing that Christ gives them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
The show brews.
Yeah,
you know, they like to put on the show or make it just look like appear I'm righteous just because I have fringes. Right. You know, so that's the same thing that the Pharisees and Sadducees were doing. That, you know, the scripture did. They broadened their phylacteries and the whole nine to try to make everything that they're doing appear I'm being righteous. You know, and try to put that as the front to people, but yet behind closed doors, you wicked as hell. You know, and in short, they were being a lot like just knowing the Israelites, but being like the bootleg pastor. You know, but just knowing they Israel and accepting that, but, you know, but walking impartial when it came down to the application of the scriptures. So that's it, man. But with that, any questions regarding anything went over, man? Everybody good? Got a better understanding today than what we had prior? You know, that's all that matters. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna make the announcements, but I'll make the announcements. All right, well, I'll make the announcement. You already stopped the camera? Yeah, you do it now. All right, we'll close the class, man. Remember, like, share, subscribe, the whole nine, man. You know, so, but shalom to those online, we go ahead and make the announcements. So, on behalf of Kabash, all right, so give me 1 minute.